A locked gate, ivy creeping up stone walls, and inside, a silence. Not the silence of seclusion, but of unanswered questions. This is Royal Lodge, a 30-room estate tucked deep within Windsor Great Park. And while its grand Georgian facade may appear timeless, the arrangements behind its occupancy are now under sharper scrutiny than ever before. At the center stands Prince Andrew, Duke of York. Once regarded as a senior working royal, now withdrawn from official duties. His continued residence in Royal Lodge, and the lease that allows it, has ignited a growing debate about wealth, privilege, and accountability within Britain's royal institution. Before we dive in, there's something I need to share with you. Over the past few days, thousands have watched these stories unfold, but most haven't subscribed. If you're one of them, I invite you now to join us. Subscribe to Crownverse so you never miss the next chapter in this unfolding royal history. Royal Lodge is no ordinary home. Situated just 3 miles from Windsor Castle, it was once the official residence of the Queen Mother. She lived there until her passing in 2002. A year later, the Crown Estate, which manages public lands and assets belonging to the monarchy, signed a lease granting Prince Andrew the right to live in Royal Lodge for 75 years. The terms of that lease are, by all accounts, unique. In 2003, Prince Andrew reportedly paid a £1 million premium to secure the lease. Under the agreement, he also committed to funding substantial renovations, with estimates suggesting he spent as much as £7.5 million restoring the property. This included structural repairs, interior refurbishments, and extensive landscape work across the estate's 98 acres. In exchange, Andrew was granted a long-term lease, valid until 2078. But it's not the length that has drawn attention. It's the rent. According to multiple reports, including from The Guardian, the agreement included a so-called peppercorn rent clause. In practical terms, this means that the annual rent is either nominal, a symbolic amount, like £1, or not actively collected at all, unless formally requested by the Crown Estate. For over 20 years, that rent has reportedly never been paid. At the time, the arrangement attracted little notice. The Duke of York was still carrying out public duties. He held honorary military titles. He was a familiar presence at state occasions and royal events. But that context has changed. Since 2019, Prince Andrew has faced significant public fallout following his association with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, a connection that led to widespread media scrutiny and culminated in a 2019 BBC Newsnight interview that raised more questions than it answered. In early 2022, amid mounting pressure and legal challenges in the United States, Andrew stepped back from royal duties. His military titles and royal patronages were returned to the Queen. And while he retained his title as Duke of York, his role within the monarchy was fundamentally altered. Yet, despite that retreat from public life, he has remained in residence at Royal Lodge. This continuity, of place if not purpose, has become increasingly controversial. In recent months, several members of Parliament have raised concerns over Andrew's lease agreement. Speaking in the Commons, Liberal Democrat MP Sarah Olney called on the government and Crown Estate to investigate the lease and determine whether the terms remain appropriate, given that Prince Andrew is no longer a working royal. Her remarks were echoed by other lawmakers, including those from Labour and Scottish National Party benches, who suggested that if the Duke of York is not paying rent, or is paying only a token amount, then the public has a right to know why. In particular, MPs have asked whether the Crown Estate, which ultimately manages lands on behalf of the taxpayer, should be reclaiming rent or renegotiating the terms.
One motion went so far as to urge Prince Andrew to return every penny of rent that has effectively gone unpaid since 2003. To be clear, no court action has been filed. No criminal accusations have been levied regarding the lease itself. But the intensity of the political pressure reflects a broader question. What role should former royals play in managing royal property, especially when those properties are indirectly tied to public assets? Adding to the tension is a separate but related debate over King Charles III's plans to streamline the monarchy. Since ascending to the throne, Charles has made clear his intention to reduce the number of royals receiving public funding and to consolidate the institution around fewer senior members. This slimmed-down vision is said to include tighter controls over property use, residences, and the optics of royal privilege. According to reports from The Independent and The Telegraph, King Charles has asked Prince Andrew to consider moving to the smaller and now vacated Frogmore Cottage, formerly the home of Prince Harry and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Andrew has reportedly declined. Under the 2003 lease, he is not obligated to leave. In fact, according to lease documents reviewed by The Guardian, if Prince Andrew were to vacate Royal Lodge before 2028, the 25-year mark, the Crown Estate would owe him approximately £558,000 in compensation, a clause built into the original agreement to safeguard his investment in the property's refurbishment. This provision, while contractually sound, has added another layer of complexity to an already sensitive situation. What began as a private lease agreement has now become a public conversation, not just about one man or one house, but about how the monarchy manages property, transparency, and public perception in the modern era. Royal Lodge is no ordinary home. Royal Lodge is not the only royal property leased under unusual terms. Prince Edward, the current Duke of Edinburgh, and his wife, Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, reside at Bagshot Park, also in Surrey. They too have a long-term lease agreement with the Crown Estate. Similarly, the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester maintain a residence under special arrangement. These agreements are, in theory, defensible. They offer royal family members stability without the overhead of public funding, and they ensure that the properties are maintained without burdening the taxpayer directly.
But the question remains, when those individuals step away from public duties or are removed from them, should those leases be revisited? The issue is further complicated by the nature of the Crown Estate itself. While it manages billions in assets, including urban real estate, farmland, and coastline, it operates independently of both the royal family and the government. Its profits are surrendered to the Treasury, which in turn funds the sovereign grant, the system through which the monarchy receives its public funding. That financial loop creates a paradox. Technically, the Crown Estate is not owned by the king. It's held in trust for the nation. And yet, royal family members benefit from its assets in ways that the public is only beginning to understand more fully. In recent weeks, images of Royal Lodge have resurfaced. Its sprawling gardens, the long drive, the cream-colored facade weathered slightly by time. One photo shows a gardener tending to hedges. Another, a delivery van entering the gate. No signs of scandal, no visible conflict. And yet, in Parliament and across the press, the conversations are growing louder. Should Prince Andrew be required to pay rent? Should he vacate Royal Lodge altogether? Or does the 2003 agreement, signed and honored by all parties, still stand as valid regardless of changing public opinion? From within the palace, no official statement has been made. The king, according to several insiders, remains committed to reform, but he is also a brother, one who must weigh public expectation against private loyalty. And Prince Andrew, for his part, remains largely silent. No public interviews, no rebuttals. He continues to live at Royal Lodge, removed from royal duties, but not from royal space. What happens next will depend on a complex interplay of legal agreements, royal precedent, political will, and public sentiment. But one thing is certain. The doors of Royal Lodge may remain closed. The lease may be legally sound, but the question of legitimacy, of perceived fairness, will not be so easily locked away. A house becomes more than a home when it belongs to history, when its occupancy becomes a symbol, and when silence, once a shield, begins to echo too loudly. As Britain reckons with its monarchy's place in a modern, accountable democracy, Royal Lodge stands as a case study of privilege, of privacy, of power, negotiated behind closed doors. We may never see the lease again. We may never hear Prince Andrew speak of it. But the questions linger. How long can a prince live in a palace without a role? And how long will the public continue to accept the cost? Let us know your thoughts below. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Crownverse. The next chapter is already unfolding.